Welcome to another deep dive, listeners. Today, you could say we're going to be looking at a really advanced method for getting essential oils out of plants.
That's right.
So we're going to be talking all about supercritical fluid extraction, or SFE for short.
Right.
It's a pretty fascinating technique that uses a special solvent to gently pull out those valuable compounds without needing any harsh chemicals or really high heat.
Yeah.
So SFE, it relies on the unique properties of supercritical fluids,
Right.
which can act like both a liquid and a gas.
That's right, depending on the pressure and the temperature.
Oh.
And this gives us really good control over the extraction process.
So our guide for this deep dive is a scientific paper that was published in the journal Molecules back in 2001
Okay.
by Wong, Wyllie, Cornwell, and Tronson.
Oh, okay.
And it's called Supercritical Fluid Extraction of Monoterpenes from the Leaves of Melaleuca alternifolia, tea tree.
Right.
So this study really is a great example of some early research into optimizing SFE for a specific plant.
Right.
The tea tree.
That's right. They were looking at extracting monoterpenes,
Okay.
the aromatic compounds that are responsible for tea tree oil's distinctive scent
Right.
and its beneficial properties.
Yeah.
So the researchers, they really wanted to find the best way to extract these key monoterpenes using supercritical carbon dioxide, or CCO2.
Now, why do they choose that?
Well, supercritical carbon dioxide is actually really popular for SFE because it has low toxicity and it's easy to handle. It's also remarkable because its density can be adjusted by simply tweaking the pressure and temperature.
So it's like having a fine-tuning knob to control that extraction process.
Exactly. Okay.
So how did the researchers actually find the ideal extraction method for the tea tree oil?
Well, they started by analyzing a commercial tea tree oil sample
Oh, okay.
to establish a benchmark for the ideal composition of these monoterpenes.
Okay, that makes sense. So they needed a reference point to assess the quality and the purity of their extracts.
That's right.
So what kind of experiments did they actually do to achieve that?
Well, they tested SFE on 5 different forms of tea tree leaves: whole dried, crushed dried, whole fresh, crushed fresh, and rehydrated whole dried leaves.
Wow.
So by testing these various matrices, they could study how the structure of the plant material influences the extraction process.
So it's like they systematically explored all the variables
Exactly.
to find the right combination.
Yeah.
So did they change anything else during the extraction?
Yes. They fine-tuned the density of the CCO2 and the temperature of the extraction chamber
Okay.
to find that sweet spot for maximum extraction while still preserving the oil's overall composition.
So they were looking at both the solvent properties
Right.
and the environmental conditions to
Exactly.
get the best results.
That's right.
It sounds pretty complicated.
It is, but the beauty of SFE is really in that precision
Okay.
and the controllability. It lets us optimize extraction for a lot of different plant materials and target compounds.
So speaking of variety, I understand that SFE is used in a lot of industries, not just essential oils.
Oh, you're absolutely right. It's found its way into, well, a bunch of applications like decaffeinating coffee
What?
and brewing beer.
Really? I had no idea SFE is used to decaffeinate coffee.
Yeah. So green coffee beans are exposed to moist steam, which opens their pores.
Right.
And then they're put into an extraction vessel. And supercritical CO2 flows through the vessel and selectively dissolves the caffeine molecules without really affecting the coffee's flavor or aroma.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's a really targeted way to remove caffeine.
Exactly.
What about beer? How does SFE work with that?
Well, in beer brewing, SFE is used to extract hop compounds, which creates these unique flavor profiles and also reduces the bitterness that you get from traditional hopping methods.
Wow.
So it gives brewers much greater control over the taste and aroma.
So SFE is improving the quality and variety of beverages.
That's right.
What other applications are there?
Well, the cosmetic and perfume industries use SFE to extract delicate floral scents and beneficial compounds from plants, which makes it possible to create these more natural fragrances and skincare products.
Oh, wow. So it's incredible how a technology that was developed for analytical chemistry has become such a valuable tool in different industries.
Yeah.
And it's improving the quality and sustainability of the products we use every single day.
It really shows how powerful scientific innovation is.
Yeah.
And how something that seems like a specialized technique can have a lot of applications that benefit both producers and consumers.
Yeah. So before we get into the tea tree oil study, let's take a moment to appreciate, the breadth and impact of SFE. It's really fascinating.
It really is. So let's look at what Wong, Wyllie, Cornwell, and Tronson actually found in their tea tree oil study. They were really thorough and started with a simple model system to validate their SFE process.
So they did like a practice run
Yeah,
before they used the actual plants.
exactly. So they put commercial tea tree oil on filter paper, and then they ran it through the SFE process. This let them test their equipment and procedures under controlled conditions before they moved on to the more complex plant material.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like calibrating the instruments
Right.
before you take the measurements.
Exactly.
Did it work?
Yeah, they successfully extracted over 95% of the target monoterpenes in the first step,
Oh, wow.
no matter what CCO2 density they used.
Okay.
So this showed just how efficient SFE was at extracting these compounds even under mild conditions.
So that's encouraging. Did they see any trends in these early trials?
Yeah, they noticed a decrease in the amount of opine extracted as they increased the CCO2 density.
Right.
And they think that that's because opine is really volatile.
Okay.
At higher densities, the rapid decompression of the CCO2 might cause some of the compound to just escape.
So it's like you need a higher density to extract more, but then some of it might disappear?
Exactly. It's
Right,
really delicate balance.
You need to get it just right.
Exactly. Every step needs to be carefully optimized.
Yeah.
So with the model system validated, they then looked at the 5 different types of tea tree leaves to try and achieve complete extraction, meaning extracting at least 95% of the target monoterpenes in that first step.
Oh, okay. So did they manage to do that with all the leaf types?
Not at first. When they used whole fresh leaves at a chamber temperature of 40 degrees Celsius, they couldn't get complete extraction at any of the CCO2 densities that they tested.
So fresh leaves were more difficult than they thought.
Yeah.
Why would that be?
Well, at lower densities, they saw that only terpene and phorol and some gore-terpene were extracted.
Okay.
This suggests that these compounds are more easily accessible within the fresh leaf.
Okay.
But at higher densities, there was this really selective extraction of terpene and phorol and almost no terpene.
So that's weird. It seems like small changes in the Sisu density can change which compounds are extracted.
Right. It's a really complex interaction. So to improve that extraction, they then raised the temperature to 80 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
And that helped them get complete extraction at densities of 0.25 and 0.40 grams per milliliter.
So increasing the temperature helped, but it wasn't a cure-all.
Right. They ran into some carryover problems at the highest density, 0.60 grams per milliliter.
Oh, okay.
Meaning that some of the extracted material from the first step was contaminating the later steps, which made it really hard to assess the process's true efficiency.
So it wasn't as simple as just turning up the heat.
No, it was a constant process of refining and adjusting.
Okay. So what else did they try?
They decided to really push things and raise the chamber temperature to 110 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
And this is where the microsteam distillation effect comes in.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So how did steam actually help?
Well, at that temperature, the water in the plant material turns into vapor.
Okay.
And this steam acts as a natural modifier and helps pull out those monoterpenes. At 110 degrees, they actually achieved complete extraction across all 3 densities, but carryover was still a problem at those higher densities.
So they still had to carefully balance the density and the temperature.
Yes. Based on the results, they figured out that 0.25 grams per milliliter was the most efficient for their setup at that temperature.
Okay.
They also tested a different match of leaves to make sure that the results were reproducible.
Okay, that's good. So what about the dried tea tree leaves?
Well, they ran into another problem when they tried to extract from the whole dried leaves. They couldn't get complete extraction,
Oh,
even at the highest temperature and density.
that's interesting. So why would dried leaves be harder to extract from than fresh leaves?
It's probably because of how the plant material changes when it dries.
Okay,
When leaves dry out, they lose moisture and their cell walls become more rigid.
right.
This rigidity makes it harder for the CO2 to actually get into the plant tissue and get to those monoterpenes.
So the fresh leaves help the extraction process.
Right.
It's like trying to get juice from a dried up orange versus a fresh one.
Exactly.
So did they find a way to work with the dried leaves?
Well, to test their idea about water helping with the extraction, they rehydrated the dried leaves.
Okay.
Before extracting them. They were basically trying to recreate the conditions of the fresh leaves.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Did it work?
It did. With the rehydrated leaves, they were able to achieve complete extraction using the same conditions they had found for the fresh leaves.
Wow, so water really is important.
Yes, it plays a crucial role in the SFE process.
That's really interesting. What about crushed leaves?
Crushing the leaves, whether they were dried or fresh, didn't actually have a big effect on the extraction efficiency.
Really?
Yeah, they couldn't get complete extraction from either the crushed dried or crushed fresh leaves under any of the conditions.
That's weird. I would have thought breaking down the plant material would make it easier to get those monoterpenes out.
Yeah, it's a little counterintuitive.
Why would crushing them make it harder?
Well, maybe the crushed material was too tightly packed, which blocked the CCO2 from flowing through the chamber.
Okay,
Or maybe crushing released enzymes that broke down the monoterpenes.
interesting. So it shows that it's really complicated.
Yeah, it's a complex interplay between the plant material and the extraction conditions.
But despite all the challenges, they were able to figure out the best conditions for getting the monoterpenes out of the tea tree leaves.
Right.
What were the main takeaways from this study?
The type of plant material you're using is really important.
Okay.
They highlighted that different plant materials need different approaches.
Okay.
And they also talked about how water acts as a modifier in SFE.
Right.
So controlling the moisture content is key.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all approach. You need to understand the plant you're using.
Exactly. Their work sets the stage for more efficient ways of extracting these compounds from plants.
So it's really amazing how complicated it is to extract oil from leaves.
It is. It really shows how complex these natural systems are.
Yeah, and how hard it is to use them.
Yeah.
This research by Wong, Wyllie, Cornwell, and Tronson really shows how important it is to be careful when you're doing SFE.
You really need to consider all the factors that can change the process.
Right.
Their work really sets the stage for future research
Yeah.
and developing even more refined techniques for SFE.
And SFE has so many uses beyond just tea tree oil.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about how it's used to decaffeinate coffee
Right.
and to extract those hop compounds for beer.
Yeah.
But it's also used for fragrances and cosmetics.
Yeah.
So tell me more about those applications. How is SFE being used to make those products better?
Well, SFE is a big deal in the fragrance industry.
Okay.
It's used to extract these delicate floral scents.
Okay.
And that makes perfumes that smell more natural
Right.
than ones made with traditional solvents.
So thanks to SFE, we can have perfumes that really capture the true essence of flowers.
That's right. And without all those harsh chemicals from solvents.
So what about cosmetics?
Well, in cosmetics, SFE is used to extract those beneficial compounds from plants for skincare.
Okay.
And this allows companies to make products with really potent natural ingredients.
Okay.
Ingredients that are known for nourishing and protecting your skin.
So SFE is really bridging the gap between nature and technology.
Right.
It's allowing us to use the power of plants in a smarter and more sustainable way.
Exactly.
This deep dive into SFE has been really, really interesting. This made me really think about, the science behind how we get these essential oils.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even simple things can be very complex.
Right.
And scientific inquiry helps us understand those complexities.
Yeah.
And to come up with new solutions.
And the research by Wong, Wyllie, Cornwell, and Tronson is a great example of that.
Yes.
Their work on tea tree oil extraction has helped us understand SFE so much better, right? And it has the potential to really change how we extract these compounds.
And how we use them.
It's really exciting to think about all the possibilities for the future.
Yeah, as researchers continue to improve SFE techniques, we'll see new applications for it.
Right.
It'll affect everything from food and beverages to pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Well, I hope this deep dive has inspired you to think about the science behind the products you use every day.
Me too.
And to consider all the possibilities of SFE in the years to come.
It's a technology that has the potential to really make a difference.
It really does.
Well,
Well, until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.
yeah, there's always something new to learn.